spend your time and money and energy on proximity to people you want to be like.
We're live, Jan. You're back, man. How are you?
Hey, man, I'm doing good. Appreciate you having me on the show.
Dude, I can't track you. You travel the world more than pretty much anyone I even follow on Instagram. I think you were just in Brazil.
I had to get a good start to 2020, man. I want the decade to be full of travel, good experiences, and of course, financial freedom. But yeah, you're right. So Brazil was first. Then it was like second week was in New York. And then after I went to a ski trip in Switzerland for 2 days, and then Austria for 3 days. And then I went to Russia for about a week and a half. And now I'm finally back in US, ready to make moves.
And your whole gig, you're always talking about these travel hacks. So you're kind of practicing what you preach when you're out there doing whatever you're doing. I don't know how you're in all these badass lounges and just living this absolute dream lifestyle. When people see it, they're like, yo, god damn, I want to figure out what he's doing.
Yeah.
And you're teaching people how to do what you do.
Yeah. Well, if you guys are watching the video, I have about 50 credit cards right here on the table. And that's really how I got started learning this credit game, how to get a bunch of points, free flights, all these lounges that you see on my story. And I make a lot of content, particularly because I teach this stuff to hundreds of my students, right? So that's what I practice, what I preach. I always tell everybody, don't go learning from somebody that's not doing what they're teaching. That's why school is the biggest joke ever. I got 2 degrees that I paid $60,000 for in Berkeley, and what other school did I go to? San Francisco State. I got 2 degrees. I got a finance and a marketing degree. The biggest waste of time ever. How could you be learning from somebody that doesn't do what they're teaching you?
Yeah, it's definitely an outdated system. I think everyone would agree with you on that.
Yeah.
But before you jumped into this whole thing, you must have had some sort of entrepreneuric pull. Like, what were you doing when you're like 14, 15?
Dude, I had my first little business when I was 10 years old. I actually, just for everybody to know, I'm from Russia originally. I was born there. Came here when I was about 7 years old with my mom. And she got remarried over here. I have family over here too now in SoCal. And the first thing I did without anybody ever helping me, I guess I had this like entrepreneur spirit, is I started a car wash when I was 10 years old in my neighborhood. I picked up a bunch of utensils. I had this electric scooter with a wagon that I put all my stuff into. And then I would wash cars for $20.
So you started this business. You've always had that entrepreneurial pull, and overall you're interested in it. I think when it gets back to the school topic, a big issue about the school topic is what we're learning is basically a preset thing that we have to choose. We have to choose a degree because we think it's going to help us, but we don't actually choose a skill that we like. For me, I love fish, man. I'm all about aquariums and scuba diving. It's been a passion of mine. And I can just naturally go on, online and learn everything there is to learn about it because I'm interested in it. I like it. I enjoy it. When you find a passion, you can just go down the YouTube wormhole and learn everything there is about it. You seem to have done this with your business today. Was this your first breakthrough kind of as an entrepreneur in terms of really getting to that point of financial freedom, or did you do anything beforehand that you kind of flirted with?
Last 5 years, this first has gotten me in the biggest shithole you could ever imagine. So at 22 years old, I was in $82,000 worth of credit card debt. It was the worst time of my life. It was so bad. I came out of college with 2 degrees, thinking, maybe I'll get a job, maybe I'll get some sort of income. But I was set on the idea that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, never work for anybody else. So I decided to go on YouTube, on Instagram, and try to learn all these businesses that everybody shows to have an amazing success with, like drop shipping, Amazon, real estate wholesaling. And I always had this issue where I thought I was super smart, better than everybody else, and that really held me back. Because when I saw these people having success, I'm like, I'm smart enough to do it by myself. So let me just, go at these businesses, try it myself. I'm not going to learn from anybody. Maybe I'll buy one course or something, but, I'm just going to do it myself. Go at it, right? Before I did this, I already had a lot of credit cards, a lot of available credit, particularly because at 18, I already got into this travel hacking game, getting credit cards, getting points, sign-up bonuses, figuring out how the reward system works. So I understood that part, the travel hacking part, but I didn't understand how credit works. I didn't understand how underwriting works, how banks can start screwing you over if you're not making payments on time. How bad it can really ruin your credit. So I started all these businesses without having a job, without having an income to test with. I just had about 100.
You just went full send.
Yeah, dude. I was like, I didn't have anybody to tell me otherwise.
Yeah.
My parents were telling me go to school. I was doing nursing at first. Nobody realized around me that I was starting all these businesses at such a young age. I should be going into entrepreneurship and learning from people, going to events, going and finding a mentor. But instead, I went to school, and nobody told me otherwise.
Right.
They just thought it would be a good safety net. So at this point, I know I wasted 4 years and a bunch of money. So at 21 years old, I'm like, dude, I really want to start my own business. And I have this credit, so I have money to use. Should be fine. I haven't seen any bad situations come out of it from the people around me. They were actually just hiding it. I just didn't see it. So I did pretty much whatever business I saw on Instagram and YouTube that was like flashy, so drop shipping. I did Amazon. I did real estate wholesaling, and I did Ty Lopez's SMMA, social media marketing agency, and I did something else, man. I had a fitness company. Fitness company was by far my most successful one. Because I love fitness. That was like, if you watch my content every day, I'm in the gym every single day. And I've been doing that since I was like 16 years old. That's the only thing that brought any money, because there was no overhead. There was nothing I needed to use credit for. But all these other things like hiring employees, testing with ads, even literally spending a bunch of money on gas, driving around looking for real estate deals without knowing what I'm looking for, eventually put me in $82,000 worth of credit card debt. After about 8 months to a year.
So you're doing so many different things, but you're not truly focusing on one thing.
My idea was that if I throw so much shit at the wall, something's going to stick.
Which is not a bad idea.
In this case, it was, because I can't focus on any single business to make it good in any, in any measure, right? So I did all these things. I'm wasting all this money. I'm thinking something's going to stick. But I'm not putting any energy. I can't put any energy, 100% of it, towards any of these businesses to, see any success. And when I got into all this debt, I was ignoring it for a while. I was traveling. I was still doing the free traveling because, I'm not spending money on it. I'm spending money just on food whenever I travel. So I'm traveling, having a great time. It seems to me like I have all these businesses going on. Something's gonna hit. I'm on Instagram showing off that I'm like traveling all over the world. I'm telling everybody I have all these companies. And then finally it hit pretty hard. When I came back and my mailbox was just stuffed to the top with a bunch of red envelopes. And I'm like, all right, I've been ignoring the situation.
Oh no, red envelopes, man.
It's bad. And so I just sat down in my office. This was in San Francisco. So you can imagine how expensive everything was at the time. I literally was hustling about 80 hours a week when I was back home, doing the fitness stuff, and then I was doing like taste tests and like focus groups just to pull in a couple $100 a week, and I was pulling in like $3,800 a month maybe, and I had rent and I had all these expenses. I bought a BMW. I was like, oh cool, my credit's cool. I bought a BMW, so I had that expense. I was just not thinking. I didn't have any understanding of how credit worked, how dangerous it could be if you don't know how to use it. So I sat down on my desk and I pulled out all these red envelopes. So I opened them up, and dude, it was like, I'm just
like D-Day hits.
Dude, every time I think back to that day, that was my rock bottom, because once it hit, I literally realized how bad the situation was. Because I'm pulling in $3,800 a month, but I have $82,000 worth of credit card debt that's at 26% interest now. So I'm paying about $4,000 a month in interest to the banks just to keep my debt in the same exact place. And I got my house expense, I got my food expense, I have my car expense, and I'm trying to start all these businesses. But I'm realizing like it's been 6 months, it's been a year, none of these businesses are producing any money. And I'm spending all this time and money just to pull in $3,800 a month just to keep my debt in the same exact place. And then that brought me to the realization like at this point I will never get out of it. Something's got to change. And I say this every time I do a podcast, because it's for most people, they got to go through something really bad to make a change. Mm-hmm. And for me, this was so bad that I was contemplating going back to Russia, where I was born. I still got family there. I got, this is kind of my safety net.
Your safety net.
Yeah, because here in the U.S. now I'm thinking I've screwed up so bad that there's no way out. And my gut just sunk because I didn't even see a possibility of getting out of the situation, because the debt grows, the interest grows, it's just compounding. The next week when I'm coming back, I sat down, I saw all these envelopes, I went on a trip. I'm like, I can't deal with this. I can't deal with this. And then I came back and it was even worse. I was now getting sued by 3 banks. I was in collections. Check my credit score was at 490 credit score. And I'm like, dude, this is bad. But luckily something shifted in my mind. I think I went into like a fight or flight type of mode. I literally thought I was about to lose my house.
Yeah, so you're at rock bottom. You're scared. You're like, what's going on right now? This is awful. You're looking at it right in the eyes. You're like, you're buried. How am I going to get out of this? What happens at that point? How long does that panic go for? And at what point do you start to turn it around?
I had a day where I was literally just sitting in my car. I couldn't even think. I was just sitting there, and I was just kind of, I think what was happening is I got into a fight or flight type of situation, and in my mind I was taking accountability for what I've done and kind of processing what led me to where I am at that particular point. I was literally hopeless. So just like sitting, I didn't drink any water. I didn't eat anything. I literally sat without sound in my car, just like, I don't think I even blinked that day. It was bad. And something kind of shifted in my mind at the end of that day, where, I've now taken accountability for how I got myself into that situation, thinking everything's good, ignoring all these problems, realizing that, throwing all this shit at the wall, thinking it's going to stick is not the right move to do. And thinking I'm going to be a successful entrepreneur without learning from anybody or having any skills, and that these 2 degrees that I have are completely worthless. Realizing all these things and taking accountability for the situation that I got into made me realize I have to do 3 things. Like it was for some reason it was so clear to me at the end of that day.
What were those 3 things?
Those 3 things were, 1, I need to drop everything I'm doing with those businesses. It ain't going anywhere. Okay. 2, I need to get myself a job, and a job that gives me a skill and that brings income that that's not coming from a company that depends solely on me. It needs to be me working for a company so that I can learn how a company works, so that I can build a skill, and that's how I can get income to start whatever business I want in the future. I'm so thankful that I got into that particular situation. It's a blessing in disguise now, because I realized I need to get a skill, which is sales. I was listening to some podcasts. It might have been Grant Cardone, and he's like, you need sales no matter what you do. You need sales. And
Is that the dude that resonates you with the most in terms of all the salespeople out there?
Grant Cardone?
Yeah.
100%. He's probably one of my favorite idols for sure. It's my favorite podcast. His event 10X made the biggest difference for me. All the business partners I work with right now were from that one event. I've gone to hundreds of events. That one event made the difference. Everybody in this house, all the entrepreneurs, they're from 10X.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just for everyone that understands, we currently are in this absolutely gorgeous house out in Arcadia, California. And it's just, let's get the dream, right? I mean, you're in mid-20s living with the homies. This place is a straight castle. And it's a grind house, a mastermind house where all these guys work together. They have several employees that work with them here.
Yeah.
And everyone collaborates and works together. And that's, something that I know I'm going to be doing in the future. But it's really cool that that's an option, that you can surround yourself with like-minded people that you met through this conference. And that's just another reason why you need to invest in yourself and go to conferences. Because you never hear somebody say, I'm so angry I went to that conference. It's so rare. Something good's going to happen.
Yeah. So that third thing, that the reason that I'm in this house, 10,000 square, I never really talk like, hey, I got these cars, I got this house, but just so everybody gets a good idea, maybe that doesn't see the video. 3 years ago, I was in like 1,000 square foot house, living with 6 people in a 2-bedroom hut, basically. Not like they were all losers. Like my environment was complete trash. It was just going not in the right direction. It was going negative, if anything. And now we're sitting in this 10,000 square foot house that's got more rooms than I can count. Literally, we had to call each other when we moved in because we couldn't find each other. With a driveway enough for 20 cars, and at 25 years old, I would have never imagined I'd be here. Neither did they, by the way. I know that for a fact. It just became a reality when we got together. Our goals are in line with each other's, making big moves. Like we never take a day off. These guys are in the office hustling all day, man. They don't take a day off. So that third thing was environment, man. I stopped talking to everybody. I didn't talk to anybody, and I knew I had to get around people that are going to be, further ahead of me, or that are going to be a positive influence on me. But I knew I couldn't get around that because there's no value that I could bring, and I was in such a shitty situation that nobody would want to be around me anyways, that was already in a better position. Like, why would you want to bring somebody in that's going to be a negative influence, right? Or that's not going to bring any value. So I just didn't talk to anybody for months, just so I can better myself, build a skill, gain some value that I can bring to other people. And then I started going to just literally to any possible event that I could, just so I can get a environment where people are ahead of me, doing positive things. 2 things I did was something called BNI. It's like a business networking event. Happens in every city. There's a bunch of chapters. You can go for free. It's basically a bunch of mom and pops entrepreneurs. Some even have big businesses. And anywhere you are in the world, you can go there, visit for free. And then what I also did is I went on meetup.com, and I went to pretty much every entrepreneur meetup, every event. I went to 2 events every single week for 6 months. So after that day, where that rock bottom day, where it was just, I took accountability. I sat there without blinking for the entire day, just realized where I'm at, and then how shitty the situation was. Either I leave the country, I leave everything I fucked up here, and then I just do something in Russia, or I stay here and I fight it out, and I see what I can make out of this. So 6 months from that day, the only things I did was, and by the way, I got a sales job, and I didn't just go and apply and I got the sales job. I applied to 150 different places. Not a single one responded. Not a single one even responded. Even though they saw I got 2 degrees, one from Berkeley, one from San Francisco State, one is for finance and one is for marketing. Dude, nobody even replied. I spent hours on my resume. It was stupid. But the people that did hire me was because I went to a meetup in response to an email I got that particular day. And I showed up in my gym outfit. Everybody was in their suit. I didn't know anything about the company. I didn't know it was a hiring event. I only found out when I walked in, shook everybody's hand, and they're like, "Hey, can you just wait outside? This is a hiring event." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." But me not knowing it was a hiring event and just having positive energy, I was so set on getting out of my situation I was going to every single event. I'm gonna meet every single person here. I'm gonna make the best out of it. I'm gonna bring the most value. So I sat outside, and turns out these guys are that are waiting outside are also partners and founders of the company. They told me a little bit about the company. They thought I was kind of weird because I like showed up in a gym outfit and everybody's in a suit. But it turns out my social media marketing agency was targeted at crypto companies, crypto startups. And this company was a cryptocurrency exchange. And I only found out once they told me. And they had a task for me to find 5 companies that they should work with, specifically for companies that are like about to go public and they need to sell their tokens, cryptocurrency tokens, on the exchange. I already knew all these companies because my social media marketing agency, I had to learn about all these companies if I wanted to get them as clients. So I was so ready to fulfill this task. So I just walked up, and then knowing these guys are actually Russian, they all came from Moscow. The company's Moscow based, and I speak fluent Russian. So I still keep up with the language. I did half the presentation in Russian, and then the guy's like. And keep in mind, this was a 3-day hiring event. There were like 150 people applied.
Are you doing this presentation outside on the steps right now, or is this after they gave you the task a few days later?
This was 10 minutes after I walked in, disturbed everybody. And then they're like, can you just wait outside? We have another session like right after.
That's great. That's a great story. Hell yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, when can you start? I'm like, I didn't want to seem desperate. So I'm like, all right, I got to take care of my companies. I'm going to, give it out to somebody else.
Yeah, let me check. A week?
I said I'm good to go by tomorrow evening. And when I talked to the people in the room, they're like, we thought you were like the CEO that came in.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah.
You walked in there with poise.
Yeah.
You walked in there with a good attitude, and it's like the rule. People that are successful, they're willing to help you and guide you and coach you, and they saw your energy and excitement. Some people rock that. Some people don't wear suits too. Some people just rock gym clothes all day. So you don't really know exactly what someone is just by their wearing.
100%. Yeah. And usually nowadays, like if somebody was wearing a suit, they're like probably trying a little bit more than what they really are.
True. That's interesting.
I wear the sweatshirt and pants like every day.
I rock these Adidas and this shirt every day. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's comfortable,
Well, how to stay comfortable. And then, so you work for this company, you make some cash flow, you make some good connections, you learn some skills. Do you pay off the debt while working at the company?
So here's what happened 6 months in. So I got this, I got this job. I started just crushing sales. By the way, it wasn't good like the first 2 months until I really understood how sales worked. Understood what the problem is, who the clients are. So I started killing it about 3 months in, and I was doing about $15,000 a month at the sales company. Not only was I building an income, more importantly, I was getting a skill, which is sales, right? And the other things I did, I realized like, look, man, these banks are screwing me so bad. I'm in collections. My credit is completely shot. I started learning credit repair every single day, 4 hours a day. I would go hustle at work, probably about 10 to 12 hours a day. And I was half the time working at home, so it was easier. I didn't have to commute anywhere. So I came back, and I would spend 4 hours learning credit. How do I fix my credit score? How do I get out of these collections, all this debt? And then that's really all I did. I didn't talk to anybody else. And then, I went to events and stuff like that. I got my environment on point. And this job actually did that for me because all my clients were CEOs and people that were starting companies. So this was like the perfect job for me to get income. So I can pay that down some of my debt, maybe use it to start a business, and get that sales skill, and get that environment straight. It did all those 3 things for me. And then so the next thing I did was learn credit for 6 months. So let's fast forward 6 months. What happened right there? In the beginning, I was at $82,000 worth of credit card debt, 490 credit score. I was getting sued. It was so bad. Luckily, I did not pay down any of the debt until I got a decent understanding of how credit and how credit repair worked. And so the result of that, at the end of the 6 months, I actually paid off probably about maybe close to 40% of the debt that I had. Everything else was in collections. And then what I learned is that when you have an account in collections, you should not pay it off unless this account will be completely removed. And it's a little bit of a process, not something like I can explain just like this is how you do it. But the only reason you should pay it off is if the collection company or the bank is going to completely remove the account or the negative remarks of that account. The other thing is collection companies, before they collect the debt, they have to validate it. And generally the banks are not going to give them validating information like the original signature that you signed or the original furnished documents that you gave to the bank to get that credit or to get that loan. So that's why they call you every single day, because all they need from you to validate the debt is for you to say, hey, yes, this is my name. Oh, yes, this is my debt. Oh, I can't pay it right now. Oh, yeah, I can start paying $1 and get on a payment plan. All they need is $1 from you, and they can validate the debt.
So you could say all these other things. You could say yes, 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 but until you actually transition $1 to them, you're good.
Or if you say, hey, this is my name. Yes, this is my debt.
So it's kind of like it's like kind of like someone serving you a subpoena. It's like if you agree, yep, you're down.
Yeah.
And that's by law. That's legally, they have that power.
Yeah, exactly. But they can't collect until they validate it, right? But that's what people don't know. They just scare people into thinking something bad is going to happen. Hey, I'm going to sue you. People, I'm going to get sued. They're just a debt collector trying to get profit. They buy the debt for about 10% of the cost, and for them to go sue somebody, maybe it'll cost another 5%, but they'll still be in profit because the majority of people are going to get scared. They're going to go and just pay them off with whatever money they got. Right, but those things, you just have to understand these people are just trying to make a profit, and there are ways around it because they need to validate this debt. They need to follow the rules, and until they do so, there's no reason for you to pay. So again, just to recap, the only reason you should pay a collector is if they send you a letter in writing that they will remove the entire account or the negative remarks
on your score
surrounding that account.
So that's like them saying, hey, Jan, if you pay us the full amount, we will remove all of the negative amounts, basically meaning we're going to make this all go away, cleaning the record.
Yeah, but you don't pay the full amount. So there's like...
So that's part one, though.
Yeah, that's part one. What I ended up doing is a lot of the accounts... So one part is, you make a payment, and they agree to remove the negative remarks. The other way, if it's fairly small amount, a couple $1,000 maybe, you could probably just invalidate the entire account and get it completely wiped off of your credit.
How do you go about that process?
So again, like they have to validate that this is your debt. So a lot of the times, the reason they do phone calls is because they don't want to give you a paper trail to go and see if there's any errors on the account. Maybe there's a birthday error. Maybe there's like a time of the account was opened error. All those things invalidate debt. It could be somebody else that used your information, or it could be a different account, right? If there's one letter misspelled on their collection record, that completely invalidates the debt.
So you could just say, no, this isn't that person, and you're straight?
Yeah, you would send official letters so that you have a paper trail, right? That's why it's very important when they call you. You say, hey, like this exact script. Hey, I'm at work trying to make money. Do not contact me. Any contact should be done in writing. Do not contact this phone or me by phone. I'm trying to make money at work. Any communication should be done in writing. This way, you have a paper trail that you can now validate, is all their information correct? Is there any information I can use to invalidate this debt? Right? And then when you do find something, maybe they literally just can't find the original furnished documents that you used to get that credit. Or maybe it's been over 4 years where this is a statute of limitations.
Would you give them your address so that they can send it to? That's cool.
Yeah, you can say, hey, you have this record on me. I'm not saying this is my debt, but I need you to validate this. I need you to send me the validating documents.
But you would say that your name. You would still say your name.
Yeah, you can say, hey, yeah, this is me. It looks like you have a record of some sort of debt under my name. So I need you to validate this information. But
Got it.
until you do validate, do not send me phone calls. Any communication should be done in writing.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So then right there, it opens them up for a lot of possibilities to check the paperwork. If there's one little infraction, it could get pushed away, sort of like a parking ticket or a traffic ticket.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can learn with credit repair that you can do yourself, not pay other companies, because I wasted a lot of money paying other companies to do it for me and nothing happened. But when I, took action on the situation, on my own situation myself, there were so many things that these companies won't do that you could do for yourself, just because it is kind of a pain. But you can get it done. Remove debt, remove collections. I got my score from a 490 to a 750 or 770 in 6 months.
Amazing.
Yeah. Part of that debt I did pay off, and I kept those accounts in good standing. Kept a good relationship with those banks. But some banks and some collectors, the relationship was they're already screwed, and I was at the point where I just had to get those collections invalidated, removed, and get my credit score up. So some banks, I can't bank with anymore. But it's not a big deal, because I kept the good banks like Chase, Amex, Wells Fargo. I kept those relationships in good standing. And I also learned that moving debt that you can't pay to banks that you're okay with losing relationship with is very important. Because right now I make a lot of money with the relationship I have with Amex and Chase and Wells Fargo for my for the e-com, for the real estate businesses. I'm not using, like, whenever I start a business, no matter how much cash I have, I'm using the bank's money. Because, at the end of this 6 months, when I got out of debt, I learned credit repair. I had this income coming in. I had a sales skill. At the end of the 6 months, the most important thing above the income that I had, above the sales skill that I had, I learned how freaking powerful credit is. And I learned how powerful it is. It could be in a negative way. I already learned that lesson. But I learned how powerful it is in a positive way. So now, fast forward a couple of years, I've learned a lot more. Anytime I got any money, I started just putting that money towards education, learning how credit worked in terms of business, how to leverage it for cash flow. And anytime I start a business, anytime I do an investment, I'm using the bank's money. And more importantly, if it's an investment that's like maybe a couple $100,000, not like millions, I'm not paying interest. I'm not paying the banks a single fee at all. I can go to the bank right now and get $100,000 without paying them a single dollar of interest, a single fee.
And that's because you have a good credit score?
No, that's one part of it. The main part of it is I understand exactly, or I have a very good understanding of how underwriting works, how I can get the most capital, how I can get the best 0% interest rates, and more importantly, how I can turn those credit lines into cash. Because you can get a loan, but generally with a credit card, you can't turn it to cash unless you do a cash advance at 26%, pay $26,000 on $100,000 to borrow for 12 months.
It's insane, yeah.
So I can go to the bank and I can, take out some cash, do a couple of maneuvers, and have $100,000 in cash right here on the table without paying a single dollar of interest, and use it for a business that'll produce me $150K. Give that money back to the bank. They've lost money on what's called inflation. But I made money on their money.
So why do you think that right there, just that simple fact, so few people utilize or know about?
It's the only way you can get this information is literally by just trial and error. And I think me getting into such a shitty situation, I started with credit repair. So I started learning how these banks can really screw people. So now when I started learning about credit and how I can use it in a positive way, I knew all the things I could get screwed on. So now I'm taking a lot less risk in those particular directions. And on top of that, it was my only focus. Every day, 4 hours on credit. I started realizing how powerful it is. And I started seeing people use it in a positive way. And, on top of the credit repair, I started putting more effort into learning how I can leverage it for business and for money, and to stop selling my time for cash and instead use the bank's money for producing income. You know, after I was going to a bunch of events and I started kind of hearing this here and there, and I saw people. I was going to a lot of real estate events, and those guys were telling me like, "Hey, I'm using the bank's money. I'm paying a percent, but I'm getting this positive cash flow from these deals." And I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." So I started putting time into learning credit, and after about a year after I got out of debt, and I was already doing pretty good with my job. I was like doing 150K a year with that job, just hustling. I was killing it, man. Probably like 60 to 80 hours a week in that job, just crushing it,
grinding.
But I was like, dude, I can't do this forever. So eventually, after I started kind of testing the waters with leveraging credit for e-com and real estate deals, just funding projects or partnering up with people, funding their deals, I started making more money just leveraging my credit than I was doing at my sales job, and I wasn't spending nearly as many hours doing those deals, those funding deals, and those partnership deals that I was just leveraging my understanding of credit for.
So you're doing education now, and you teach and train and do all these things on these topics. What were some of the most important resources that you found that kind of gave you the edge in learning about this stuff?
Google was my best friend for a long time, but there's also a lot of misinformation that you'll find on there. There's a bunch of blogs that people write that are maybe just starting out, or like they've been in the game for a little bit, but they don't fully understand the entire process. Maybe they understand like the overall, just like the basics. But once you start taking that and then trying to do something advanced with it, then stuff begins to go wrong, and then you get into this situation where the banks can easily screw you. The banks are very smart in a way where they have this very very shady, so to speak, system. It's like a funnel for screwing the majority of the people. You go through school, you go through college, you don't learn about credit. You come out of school, for example, high school, and then you're easily given a bunch of student loans, which you don't know really how they work and how they can screw you in the long run, or how to get out of them, because these loans you're getting for school is not going to produce a positive ROI for the majority of people. They're not going to get a job right out of college that's going to pay nearly enough. And then all of a sudden you're getting credit cards, you're getting all these bonuses. It sounds so amazing because you think you're going to get free travel and you're going to get all these points and stuff like that. But what happens after is, you start using these things, your bonuses and your 0% interest runs out. You don't know how to manage all those things, and then the banks, hey, we're going to raise the interest on you. Hey, we're going to give you a little late payment here because you don't know how to manage your accounts correctly, and all of a sudden you're in debt, just a little bit, paying interest to these banks. All of a sudden you're in an okay amount of debt, but you think you can manage, because you got your education coming. Hey, you got your student loans to pay for the education. And all those things start piling up to the point where most people really can't handle it. They're trying to use this money to start things that they know or that they think is going to produce an income where it doesn't. And then one little mess up turns into like a snowball effect. And then all of a sudden you're just stuck in a bunch of debt. Like,
it's like quicksand.
Yeah. Like I have hundreds and hundreds of students that I've talked to one-on-one with. And I know like 70% of them are stuck in a bunch of student loans that they're paying higher and higher interest on, that did not produce a positive ROI for them. They didn't get a job. It didn't help their business. It's just a big scam.
It must be. Tell me if I'm just being a little ignorant here, but it seems like as long as you make the minimum payment on your credit card, you're good for the most part.
Not at all.
As long as you pay off let me start over. As long as you pay off your credit card, for me with my credit cards, I pay off my credit cards every month. It's just part of me. I don't look at it as an extension of money. I look at it as a liability, and I try every single month I have it put in my calendar, pay your credit card, right? It's just become second nature to me. As long as you do that, you're straight.
The reason they suggest minimum payments and that particular minimum payment that they send you is so that they can make the most money off of you on interest while minimizing risk to get the full borrowed credit back. That's their process. They're minimizing risk. They want to make sure you get the full amount back, but they're also maximizing the profits they can make off of the interest and fees they charge you.
Got it. So basically the minimum payment is just kind of something to get you to kind of fall into the trap of, it's kind of like a trap.
Yeah. Your cards, you can max them out every month. You could, as long as you pay them down before your due date. And there's two dates. There's a payment due date and there's a closing date. Okay. A lot of people mess this up because they pay before the closing date, but they have a payment due date, and a lot of the times they're going to report what's been paid before the due date. So people think, oh, okay, yeah, my closing date is on the 13th, but the payment due date is always 3 days before the closing date. And they're like, oh, why did my score drop and I have 100% utilization on this account and I paid it off? Well, because you should have been paying before the payment due date.
Because it takes a few days to clear, typically, right?
And that's just one example of how they can screw you, man. There's just one example. Another example is, hey, they can raise the interest rate on you without, really sending you any notification, or even if they do, you're not going to see it.
So that's the second major one. Is there a third major one there?
And dude, there's
so many.
There's so many because they can hey, all of a sudden they're not reporting your positive payments. The second you make a late payment, bam, your score drops 30 points.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah. So this is a very good education to a lot of people right now. Just to understand and these gifts of credit cards, right? I love my credit card, and I love my points, and because I pay my credit card off every month, I use Chase as well. I have the actually, how about this? As we transition our second half of this podcast into learning more about how you have 45, 50 credit cards staring in front of me, I'm just going to do a quick vet of the credit cards I have in my wallet and just see what you think.
Let's do it.
I have right now, the two main ones I use is the Chase Freedom Unlimited.
Yeah.
There was a year deal where you got 1.5 times more points for a year.
Yeah.
And then afterwards it goes back. And then I have the Chase Sapphire Reserve. So I like this because I could transfer the points from here into this, the reserve points, and I would get as if they were all reserve points, so you can make more money there.
Right.
Do you recommend these guys?
Yeah, man. Chase is great. A lot of people can't get them. I can't get them anymore because there's a 524 rule. If you have 5 or more credit accounts with any creditor, Chase will not give you any more Chase cards. So it's very important to focus on getting Chase cards at the beginning of your journey, or if you haven't got approved for anything in like the last 24 months, go for Chase cards. The Reserve is like an overall probably the best card to get in addition to the Amex Platinum.
Yeah, and they got that 1 year WeWork deal, or is that the
Not
business
anymore.
one? No.
Yeah, WeWork's out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, but there's a lot of other ways. So like that's a credit card, and Amex Platinum is a charge card. So there's no credit line, but there's a spending limit. And that spending limit, for example, if you use it for an e-com business, you can scale that thing up way past whatever any credit card can give you. A good example is like the Amex Platinum could give you a $20,000 spending limit, and in 12 months you can scale it up to a couple $100,000. With a credit card, probably not going to be able to do it.
Okay, so you must have some pretty intense tracking system on all these cards. How do you track when you need to make the payments on these things? Do you have it all outlined in a giant Google Sheets and it's all automated? Like, talk to me about how you have all these cards and why do you have all those cards? And just let's talk about all these freaking stacks of, it's like Christmas over here of credit cards.
Yeah, I got these stacks of cards, but I only use a couple on a daily basis. The reason why I get these cards, and there's a couple, one, of course, I get the points. I get the sign-up bonuses, and there's methods to get the sign-up bonuses and all these points without spending a single dollar. So you don't have to go and spend $5,000 for meeting the reserve bonus.
Do you use the other cards to do that? Is that the whole idea?
No. No,
Because I also heard once that you can buy gift cards through these and then use gift cards.
If you're listening to this, don't buy gift cards for manufacturer spending. That's called like to get points and to meet bonuses without actually spending. It's called manufactured spending. Your gift cards was one old method that is out now. Is very risky. There's just no point of doing it at all. You're basically buying gift cards, you're recycling it for cash, and then you're paying off your credit cards. And then, of course, it looks like you're spending money, so you get the bonuses and the points and whatever. But they have particular codes and particular amounts that they flag in their internal systems that they know you're doing that stuff. And so they're going to shut your accounts down. You're going to lose a relationship, and it's just not worth it.
Right.
There's a lot of other safer methods, a lot higher volume methods. That like so I have hundreds of students, so we pretty much have like a big mastermind of testing, tracking new methods, safer methods.
So in terms of some of these methods, I know obviously you stick to this to people inside of your courses and all that, but can you give us an example, like how? I mean that's kind of like a badass claim to say, right? You get these points without spending $1. Well, that sounds pretty dope. Like word, right?
Yeah.
What else can you talk about on that subject?
The specific methods, obviously, just can't share because if too many people find out about it, then they're gonna stop working.
Right. Okay.
Right. But something that I really focus on like the absolute best method to get a shitload of points, millions of points. Is to start, for example, like one of my business partners, he runs Amazon automation. So he starts an Amazon business. He charges like $25K, and then you fund the products. They do all the research. They do everything in terms of the Amazon business. All you do is fund the store. So when you understand how to leverage credit correctly, where you can borrow money from the bank without paying any interest, and you know how to scale your credit lines, then you can just go start an Amazon store with one of my business partners. One, you're making like, I think it's like a 10% ROI on your sales. But more importantly, in terms of the credit points, you're making a shitload of points on your spending because you're buying products and then you're selling them for a profit on Amazon, right?
Got it.
So I wouldn't say that's manufactured spending. It's just a really good way when you understand how to leverage your credit to get not only a little bit of an income, but a shitload of points.
So it's like you're borrowing money from a bank at zero interest, using strategy number 1, then using strategy number 2 to start these Amazon stores, using those Amazon stores to then buy the product. So say you're selling fidget spinners, which everyone was doing back in the day, and you buy 10,000 fidget spinners from some distributor in the Ukraine or wherever you get it from.
Right.
And then you use drop shipping through, or maybe not drop shipping, or through the Amazon store. Anytime someone buys from that store, you then sell that product. So you're making money, paying back what you would have spent, but you also got the points.
Exactly. And this is like a very safe way to get millions of points.
And like
every year.
and a typical business will spend their points on, printers and printer paper and office supplies. Really, it's just those typical business expenses. That's what majority of people are currently using it on, and that's what credit cards are banking on you using it on.
Right.
Interesting.
The here's something very cool that like 99.999% of people won't know. While getting all these points and scaling my credit lines, the main focus of credit for me now is to produce cash flow. Use the bank's money to produce cash flow, whether it's in the Amazon business. For me, it's going to be, the main focus is going to be multifamily real estate. I'm scaling my corporate credit lines up to millions and millions. But with personal credit, you're kind of limited to how much you can scale it and what you can use. With business, you can go and get a couple $1,000,000 at like 6%. And with personal, I can go and get a couple $100,000 at completely free, no interest at all. But of course, I can't go buy a 60-unit multifamily deal with a couple $100,000, right? I can go to the bank and scale up my corporate credit lines, go and get 4 to 6% on a credit line for a multifamily deal, which is even easier than going and getting it for like a 4-unit deal. and then go and using that to produce cash flow, right? So that's my main focus with credit for business. But that cool thing that I was about to say is all the free flights, all the free hotels, I'm not using credit for. I'm not using credit for at all for the flights.
You mean only points?
No, I'm not using points. I'm not using credit. I'm not using points. You could, like for example, for the flights, I'll use points and credit maybe 5% of the time. And then for the hotels, I'll give you a good example. So I stayed in the Ritz-Carlton since 2019, since January of 2019. I've stayed 72 nights in the Ritz-Carlton. And I paid close to nothing. Because without credit, there's a couple methods. Without credit, without points, you can get about 70% discount on the hotel. So the Ritz-Carlton in LA would be like $650 a night. I'll get it for about $170 a night. And then if you implement points and credit into the equation, then I can take it from 170 down to 0. Most people, when they get points, they'll spend 60,000 points on staying at the Ritz-Carlton for one night.
For $700, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to spend about 17,000 points, stay in the same hotel, but not only that, I'm going to go get a suite. For a suite would be like 150,000 points for anybody just using points. I'm going to spend 17,000 points. I'm going to go to the Ritz, and I'm going to get a suite.
Is that because you're maximizing the Ritz loyalty program?
Yeah. So using all those three things, the non-credit methods and the credit methods. The credit methods, when you get the points, but additionally, starting January, the non-credit methods, you can go and still maximize the loyalty program and get statuses. That wasn't the case a couple of years back. This like it only started getting really good January of this year.
So now it's taking another element of hitting these bonuses, but also hitting the bonuses on these like the Hilton rewards or Ritz-Carlton rewards. And you're somehow able to do those in cohesion with each other?
Yeah, but I mean, getting the bonuses and the statuses are very easy to do.
It's just not a high requirement. Is that why?
All the requirement to get the statuses now, you can do without credit.
Just because it's a lot. Like, what do you mean? Like, you would still have to spend 10 grand in hotels to get that, right?
Not anymore. So to get platinum status, all you got to do is stay 15 nights. There's something called a platinum status challenge that you can get simply by staying 15 nights. And these 15 nights before wouldn't count towards your status when you're using the non-credit travel hacks, but now starting January they do. So now you can go and get a 70% discount with the non-travel hacking methods, and still that'll count towards your status. So when you go and stay in a hotel for 70% off, like at the Ritz-Carlton, I'm gonna have status because those nights that I stayed with the 70% discount non-credit travel hacks
count towards those 15 nights.
Yeah, exactly. But now that I'm getting 70% off the hotel, I can take points, bring them into the equation, and bring it down to 0.
Interesting. Yeah. So I'm assuming those non-credit travel hacks are exactly what you teach in your courses.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a very good pitch, bro.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
For everyone listening, that's like, oh, I'm taking my credit card, man. Like, it was good.
Yeah, but I mean, like this, the program I have, it's open literally like only a couple times a year, and it's gonna stay that way because, like I said previously, if too many people find out about it, it's gonna stop working for everybody.
Did you create this culture inside this niche of people that do this and they're travel hackers, and does everyone help each other out and work together?
No.
Or is it a really shady kind of smaller deal?
No, it's not. It's not. Everything's legal, by the way. Like it's not. Some travel hacks are against company policies, but they're not illegal by any means. we're just kind of we're just kind of finding opportunity within within these companies, within the travel rewards programs, and taking advantage of them. And sometimes they stop working, they close those loopholes, and we find new ones.
Yeah, that's the nature of entrepreneurship right there, baby.
Yeah, exactly. But that's like the real main focus is to leverage credit correctly for a business, because that's the main thing that got me into the shitty situation that I was in. But it's also the same thing that got me to where I am today, where I'm making more money leveraging my credit for real estate and e-com deals without selling my time at the sales job. So that's really the main thing. You can learn travel hacks and travel for free. That's awesome, but that should be secondary to understanding credit and leveraging it for a business and to invest into getting cash flows without you having to sell your time.
Interesting. So if you could leave maybe a few tips for somebody that is looking to get into travel hacking on a very small basis, what are something that someone can do today that might be an intermediate, beginner level hack that anyone can take with them today?
The best thing that somebody can just probably do just like literally today is go to the website called uscreditcardguide.com. Read through the whole thing. It's basically a website that lists every single personal and business credit card out there and every single offer that they have when you go apply and get approved for one. So I started with credit cards in the travel hacking space. I learned the travel rewards program, how to maximize points, how to get statuses, how to apply for credit cards correctly, how to minimize, how to maximize my potential for getting approved for more credit cards. So that's like literally if someone goes and spends 4 hours just reading that site, they'll see the potential of understanding how to apply correctly for credit cards, how to get approved, maximizing points, and how they could use those points for free flights, free hotels. Because if somebody's the average person isn't taking 140 flights a year like I am, and for 140 flights you need to go and learn the non-credit stuff too.
Yeah,
there's a whole world of non-credit travel hacks out there too. But that's a really good way to start. But on top of that, if they go to my Instagram, you see all my stuff is about credit and travel hacking, and I go live every single week, and I give out a bunch of free stuff too. So there's a lot of people that do travel hacking and credit related stuff literally just by following my Instagram stories.
So what about with available credit? That's one of the 6 things that show up on a credit report when you check your credit. Available credit is a sign that you are a good spender because you're not spending all your money. Is having a ton of credit cards, 45 credit cards, say, that racks up your available credit, is that one of the big positives to managing credit really well? Like, do you want to have as much available credit as possible?
Managing it, no. But in terms of getting approved with other creditors, if they see that you have a lot of accounts in good standing, that you were able to manage a $20,000 credit line without having any defaults, without having any kind of negative remarks, they'll feel very safe giving you a similar amount of credit that you can use because they know you've been responsible previously with many other accounts. A good example of this is like if I go to you and I ask you for $10,000. And you know that I've never borrowed $10,000 before, you would feel that it's a very high risk to give me $10,000 because you don't know if I'm going to pay it back or not, and the only collateral you have is to ruin my credit score if I don't pay it back, right? Some people don't give a shit, right? So on the other hand, if I go to you and ask for $10,000, and you know that I've borrowed $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 from 100 people and I've always paid it back, you're going to know there's a very small chance that I'm not going to pay this money back and you're going to make a profit off of me. So when a lot of people say, isn't it bad to have 100 credit cards? Go to that example, right?
Right.
The only reason it could be bad to have a lot of available credit would be when you're applying for more with a specific creditor. So like Chase is generally not going to give more than $100,000 to one person. Yeah. So in that case, yeah, for Chase, if you want to get more than $100,000, and you already have a lot, they're probably not going to give you more because that's a risk now to them. If you go and just max out everything and just dip out,
Yeah.
now that's a risk to them. But then if you need more, you obviously just go and take the personal credit. I always say this. I always say it's very important if you want to start a business. Scale up the personal credit. Scale up the personal credit, and then use it to quick start your business credit. Because when you go and apply for business credit, they're looking at your personal credit to see what kind of credit lines they should be giving you on the business side. Most people go and start doing personal and business at the same time, and they're going to be getting tiny credit lines on the business side, which, if you're starting a business, you can't do anything with $1,000, right? Whereas if you go and scale up the personal credit, you have $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 credit lines on the personal side. You go to the business, you're immediately going to go and get massive or relatively big credit lines on the business side, where 0% offers are not very. In US they are, but in most other countries they're not. And you want to maximize them. You don't want to get a 0% offer and get $1,000 because you're just wasting the no interest offer, right? You want to go and get a $50,000 0% offer and use it for a real estate deal, an e-com deal, right? So that's why it's very important to go and scale up and establish the personal credit and then use it for quick starting and scaling up the business credit. But more importantly than anything, the reason I got into that $82,000 worth of credit card debt is I did not follow this rule. And that rule is do not buy anything with credit if it does not produce a cash flow, 99%. And I say 99% because you can never be 100% positive. It's just something that if you're going to use credit for something, you don't have any supplementary income to back it up as a safety net, and you want to make sure you don't get into the debt that I got into, which a lot of people will get into. Do not use credit for something that does not produce a cash flow. Very simple. At a 99% rate.
So don't use credit to buy a car. That's what you're saying.
You can finance a car. Okay, you can finance a car, but you should have supplementary income to make sure you're able to pay it off. But yeah, just if someone's starting a business, if they're just starting out, I recommend don't even use credit for a car. Because that'll just, I bought a Beamer and I was paying $400 a month and I had no income coming in. And that was just putting me under and under and under,
Yeah, it's just sinking. What about inquiries? So like if you just go look for an apartment and someone does a credit check on you, you get an inquiry on your credit statement. And then they say that after you have 5 to 7 inquiries, it's just like it hinders your credit score. How much do they hinder your credit score? And what's the deal? Could you have 70 to 100 inquiries? Because you must have a shit ton of inquiries with that many credit cards.
I got none.
If I have 4 or 5 inquiries on my credit card on my credit report because either one, I opened up a new credit line or I applied for an apartment building and they ran a credit check on me, what would be, number one, is that bad? And number two, how do you get rid of those?
Yeah. So here's a very important thing to know about inquiries. They stay on your credit report for 2 years, but they only affect you for 6 months. There's very little effect that they have after 6 months in terms of applications. They could say on Credit Karma, yes, it's hurting your credit score. You got too many inquiries. It's in red. They're not really affecting your applications. So anytime I apply for credit cards, it's going to be every 6 months because I know after every application, it's going to stop affecting me 6 months down the line. And now I can go and apply for a bunch of credit cards. And I do it all in one day, and I do it on a mass scale. So I'll go and get 10 to 12 cards every single time I apply every 6 months.
Right? Do you ever cancel credit cards?
I never cancel credit cards, particularly because you want to always keep good payment history. This goes back to having a good credit profile. While creditors see that you have open, good standing accounts with good payment history and a high credit age as well. It's one of the factors. Whenever you close an account, you have 7 years, and then it's going to fall off, and all the payment history and the age is going to come off your credit report.
That makes sense. When you look at somebody like the points guy, he makes, and I believe he makes referral commissions off of pushing all these people to these different banks. Number one, I don't know if they're funding him, if they're sponsoring him, but what's the deal with that? And how do you know how that dude's making money? And two, it seems like this is something that's right up your ball game in order to do.
Yeah, I mean, he did something similar to what Credit Karma does. And the entire business model is to make amazing content about the credit cards and then have a referral link for that particular credit card for people to go and apply. And once they get approved with their referral link, they make a commission.
Okay. That's that simple.
Simple as that. And then they run ads, obviously, on the...
Do you do referral marketing to banks and stuff with all of your travel deal?
Nah. My whole main thing is, on the credit side, there's income from the program itself. And my long-term focus is to get my students to the level that I'm at, so later I can partner with them on deals. So I can bring in funds together and pull those together for, let's say, a multifamily deal, and then make cash flow together.
So sort of taking the Grant Cardone business model and applying it to credit.
Yeah, because if I can get 1,000 people to get to the level of knowledge that I have with credit, then I can just maximize all the deals that I'm doing in real estate and multifamily down the line.
That's a good long play. It's looking into it. You're looking at the long term, not the short term.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you could go back in time and you could talk to, the Jan right out of college, right? He's $82,000 in debt. He's at rock bottom. And you could have said 1, 2, or 3 things, maybe even before you went to school, that would have saved you a ton of time, money, headache, or just heartache, and just basically some life principles. And it can't be, I wouldn't have told myself anything because it made me who I am today. It's like, that's just a lame answer, but it is a good answer. What are some of those things that you kind of wish you told yourself? And you're still a young guy, but just to give you that upper leg.
So simple, man. I would have understood that anybody that is not doing shit with their life, that doesn't have big goals or aspirations, or that's just like keeping me in a neutral state, should not be around me. And most people, look, I mean, they don't really want to do anything extraordinary with their life, because most people are, that's the average population. But if somebody does want to make big moves, they want to be an entrepreneur, they want to get around people that are, just making a real big impact. That's all you gotta focus on, is getting around those kind of people. You cannot be around anybody that is doing anything negative to hinder your success or to hinder your momentum. Whether it's family or close friends, you cannot have the excuse that, hey, well, it's my brother, I can't do anything about it. You can't have the excuse that, we grew up together. Just because you grew up together, that shouldn't be an excuse for you to not succeed. One negative person in your life can really set you back years and years. My entire environment and most people's environment is absolute garbage. That's why they're not moving anywhere. Even if they have some aspirations or goals or energy to move forward, all those people around them are just gonna bring that down to the average of them.
Right.
That's saying like you are the average of the 3 or 5 people that
you spend the most time with.
Yeah, people. I think it's said so much that people are like, it's blah blah blah. It's just a saying, right?
Right.
But it's the truth. If you go and hang out with people that are making $100,000 a month, you're probably gonna start making a lot more money and eventually get up to their level. If that's the only thing you know and that's the only thing you're learning, that's where you're gonna get to. Or if you're gonna go and spend time around people that are making no money and just losing money, you're probably gonna start losing money and making mistakes because that's the only thing you see.
True.
Right? So, that's it. Like, spend your time and money and energy on proximity to people you want to be like. People that are going to help you get ahead, preferably that are ahead of you, because if they're ahead of you, that you got places to be and they're going to push you forward. Everybody in this house is pushing me forward to, doing better in business, doing better in health, any aspect of business and life. Everybody in my environment is helping me move forward, and I'm doing the same for them.
You only have so many hours in every day, and you're only talking to so many people. So, I mean, that statement is the most powerful. So who are you talking to?
Who am I talking to?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm talking to everybody.
I was just saying who are you talking to and generically, but since we're on that topic. You definitely have a good squad.
Yeah, but I'm talking to everybody, man. I'm talking to the 10-year-old in their family's house. Maybe they're in a bad household. Maybe they're in a really good household and they got everything they need. But they need to understand that once they become older, they're not gonna have that. They're not gonna be supported, and the only living. Having everything given to them is the worst curse you could possibly have.
Yeah, it can't be on the feel sorry for yourself train.
100%. And if you're in a shitty place, just understand nothing's gonna change when you have that same environment. You gotta get out. Doesn't matter if it's family. Doesn't matter if you're 50 years old. It's the same thing.
And you're building that story, man. The story's everything. What's so great about you, and something I personally really like about you, number one, I think you're a really genuine human. And I think it's tough when you find genuine people when dealing with this type of business, because I feel like it's kind of a slimy or overall business. There's so much information out there, creditors in general. You talk about these people out there, these sharks that are buying credit, and they're out there just to flip it, and they're calling you, and the collectors and stuff like that. Yeah. You're just a really genuine, nice human that figured this stuff out, that wants to share, that's putting good stuff into the world. You've been through the gauntlet of life. You've been through the ups and downs. I mean, you're a really young guy. You're 25 years old, but you got gray beards going on because you're a wise Gandalf. So I think this is really cool, and I think that the audience can learn a lot from you. How can people continue to follow your journey, and how can people check you out on social media if they want to learn more from here?
Yeah, man, and I appreciate that, by the way. I think it's very important for somebody that's going out and teaching other people, whatever they're teaching, they should have gone through it or they do it. That's why I think school and college is like the biggest sham ever, man. How could you be learning from somebody that's teaching you and they're not doing the same business? The biggest realization I had in school was when my finance professor was teaching me how to invest in real estate property and how to get money from the banks. And I'm like, so how do you do this on a daily basis? And they say, oh, I've never done this before. I'm like, is she joking?
Yeah.
No, that's how it is. But the best ways to reach out to me is going to be Instagram. That's where I make all the credit and travel hacking content. That's where I post daily. I haven't missed a story post in a year and a half now.
Nice.
I've made content every single day. And I did that because I know every single day I get positive feedback about people that just follow me, that just see my stuff, or my students in my inner circle. Just very positive and impactful feedback. That are just either I'm motivating them or I'm helping out with credit or travel hacking. And it just very positive feedback. The Instagram is at Jan Stavisky. I guess maybe we'll put it somewhere, but it's at YANSTAVISSKI. Maybe soon it'll be updated to something more simple. But in the meantime, I guess we'll tag it somewhere below. And then the other best way is if you want to see some more crazy stuff is TikTok. I started that about 2 months ago.
I saw that.
Yeah. I started 2 months ago and I hit 400,000 followers on TikTok just last night. So, and that's another huge
platform.
It's a huge platform, but what I'm trying to say is if you're not on TikTok, you're missing out on a lot of very potential exposure for your brand or your business or your message or whatever. Because that's like Gary Vee says, that's like Instagram 2011. Dude, I started 2 months. Like, what platform can you start 2 months and gain almost 500,000 followers?
Yeah, that's pretty absurd. Fantastic, man. Well, I know there's a lot more I can learn from you, and there's a lot more that we can pick your brain on. We could talk for hours. So looking forward to inviting you to the next dinner party, connecting with amazing people. And with that said, I think we're all good, man. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Awesome, brother. Appreciate you.
Till next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Len Jones Party of Two. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review and subscribe to stay up to date on our new episodes. And remember, hope is not a strategy. Keep making moves. Till next time, peace.